This is Porsche's best-selling car, the Macan premium midsize SUV, or at least it was the bestseller when it still had a petrol turbo engine. Now though, it's gone all electric, which is a pretty bold move given the unpredictability of the electric vehicle market at the moment. Now with such a massive evolution in this model, I've got lots of questions to answer about it. First of all, is it as good as a turbocharged petrol engine? Can it be a true Porsche? And most importantly, can it continue to be Porsche's cash cow? Can you believe that until the Macan came along, the Cayman two-seater coupe was Porsche's most affordable model? Now though, the mid-size prestige SUV has carved out a big notch in the Australian market and around the world. It's premium, potent, practical, and with the move to electric, Porsche promises all of that continues. If you're thinking about a Macan, you're probably also considering posh EVs such as the Audi Q6 e-tron, BMW iX3, or perhaps the Mercedes EQB. There is an entry-level real-drive Macan available for about $128,000, but this one is the Macan 4, which means it gets 2 electric motors and all-wheel drive, and it starts at around about $133,000. But it's a Porsche, which means you can go absolutely nuts in the options list, as someone has with this car. Now, normally, I would just reel off a couple options and we'd be done, but because it's a Porsche, I have to read from a list. So, this car has Provence optional paint colour, these silver roof rails, the silver trims on the side, the body coloured trims here, the electric badging here also in silver, matrix LED headlights, all optional, the wheel centres in Porsche colours, standard is silver, you pay extra for the colours, panoramic sunroof optional, and these wheels, $2,000. Each just under 8 grand for the set of 22-inch wheels. Porsche offers a 3-year warranty on all new cars, which is low compared with some of the mainstream marques, but about average among luxury brands. That said, there is an 8-year or 160,000 kilometre guarantee on the battery, again fairly standard. Servicing intervals are very long, with 24 months or 30,000 kilometres between visits. There's not the usual one charge socket, but 2 on the Macan electric, one on this side and one on the other. The reason for that is on the other side it's for low power charging, and on this side, high power charging, and I particularly like the way they're accessed just placing a hand on the flap there. As this is the Macan 4, it gets 2 electric motors for a combined power output of 285 kilowatts and a respectable 650 Newton meters. That's enough to get this car from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in a claimed 5.2 seconds, but efficiency is still reasonable at a claimed 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. The key difference in Porsche's electric architecture is the 800 volt system, which means lots of performance and fast charging. With a high power charger, topping up the battery from about 10 to 80% takes just 21 minutes, says Porsche. When using 11 kilowatts of home charger power, a complete recharge from empty is possible in just 10 hours, which is very impressive given the Porsche's battery size. And it continues on the inside. Augmented reality head-up display, $4,000. This lovely leather interior, about $3,300. I've got a heated multifunction GT Sport steering wheel, Porsche crests on the headrest. I've got a Sport Chrono package, advanced 4-zone climate control in place of the 2-zone standard system, a Bose surround sound system, about another $2,000, matching seat belts in crayon, same color as the seats, electric sports sound, an accent package, and another third display here for the passenger. All up, this car has $38,000 worth of gear added to it, which means the asking price goes up to about $170,000 or drive away nearly $200,000. Fundamentally, this car differs from a whole long line of Porsches because it is fully electric. Now, the Taycan set the new standard for Porsche when it comes to propulsion systems, but thankfully with that car they managed to keep it feeling exactly like a Porsche, and I'm very happy to report that the Macan electric does exactly the same thing. When you jump in, the immediate impression, the feel, the quality, the ergonomics, even the smell is just like a Porsche should be. And let me show you some of those things I'm talking about. First of all, the seat is supportive and firmly upholstered, but not hard and uncomfortable. It just feels just right. The steering wheel, perfectly positioned in that really nice vertical orientation. it's quite small. SUVs, they can have these big chunky agricultural steering wheels. This one is slender in the hand and quite small diameter, and it feels really sporty, like I'm in something like a Cayman or a Boxster. It's also beautifully upholstered. One of my favourite features is it has steering wheel heating in this. The only manufacturer that does this is the way you switch it on is this little concealed button around behind the steering wheel here. Hit that once, you don't need to see the button, you know where to find it, and it gives you a notification on the digital screen to know it's on. No one else does that. It's just an example of clever thinking. It's 30 degrees today, so that one is going off again. The ergonomics and the seating position is absolutely lovely. You can forget very quickly that this is a mid-size SUV on the outside from the way it makes you feel on the inside. It feels purposeful and ergonomically great, and that actually works really nicely when it comes to the driving experience, which we'll talk about shortly. Then there's the way this cabin is appointed, and again, it is typically Porsche. This one has the more expensive upgraded leather interior, and it's $3,300. For that you get this beautiful crayon coloured leather. What I particularly like is where a lot of manufacturers talk about leather appointed interiors, which means it's only part leather. The Porsche leather interior is complete. Everything that looks like leather is leather. It's a multi-function steering wheel, which means you get a few little switches, but not too many. They haven't over-cluttered the way this steering wheel looks, so it still feels sort of purist and sporty, but all of what you need on there, and it's very logical. I can tell immediately what each of those switches does. And then we come to storage. For a car of this, it's quite a cozy interior, but the use of the space has been quite well allocated. So reasonable door pockets. This central tunnel here, where you'd normally have a prop shaft going through for a conventional four-wheel drive, has been liberated, and there's loads of space in there. So a couple cup holders, lots of storage for things up front here with 12 volt and USB charging. And there's a nice little cubby for your phone here, which allows wireless charging, and it stows away nicely, hidden from eyes, which keeps this whole central area nice and uncluttered and clean. And then there's the control panel for the climate. It's not in the central touchscreen. Porsche, in its wisdom and experience, has decided to keep that completely separate. It is digital. It actually, when you turn this car off, goes a complete gloss black. It is illuminated, and you can see those hard switches, which always stay there, and then the display of each number and what you're doing is digital and completely smooth. A really nice balance of the technological and the future, but also traditional, very easy to use and operate. I love that. Look at this. How many times have I talked about my pet hate, fake French stitching? Here, it's real. Look at that. It looks and feels beautiful. Perhaps not necessary, but it does add a really nice feel of quality. Good quality materials everywhere. Search for as long as you like. You will not find anything in here that feels crappy or cheap. It is just beautiful. And the centerpiece really, other than these digital screens, which we'll get to shortly, is this car has the Porsche Sport Chrono package, which means you get this lovely little stopwatch up on the top. You'd wear that on your wrist. It's absolutely beautiful. Just everything with this car feels premium. It feels, looks, all the touch points feel like Porsche, even smells good. And that continues through to the technological offering as well. If you're expecting a good suite of digital and technological inclusions in the Macan Electric, then you'll be very pleased, because there is heaps. Let's start with the driver's instrument cluster, all fully digital. What I really like about this is Porsche has done a really nice blend of the traditional and the modern. So it appears to be a normal instrument cluster with traditional gauge on each side, but it's all digital, and you can change a little bit of the appearance of that depending on how futuristic or digital and traditional you want. I like that. But the one thing that Porsche hasn't done in this car is it's kind of gone against one of its principles and philosophies, which is to start a Porsche you have to go through the motion of turning a key, which you don't have to do in this car anymore. Virtually every other Porsche on the market at the moment, including the Taycan, has a little virtual ignition switch, which doesn't get removed from the car like a key, but it does start the car, turn it on. In here, it just is on when you get in, which is very convenient, but as I say, it's taken away one of those kind of Porsche principles which I rather liked, of the turning of the key like a part of a ceremony to get it going. Anyway, in here it is just on, or you do have an ignition button to turn it off if you need to when you're getting out, just to make sure it is definitely off. I sometimes get that worry that it hasn't completely switched off. But the digital displays really are very much future leaning. So all of that information that I need for the driver contained within that cluster. It looks great. It's the shape of a traditional instrument cluster rather than boxy and square, and it just It works beautifully. And it's framed so nicely in this viewing panel through the sports steering wheel. But don't forget, this one has the optional VR head-up display. So I get a huge head-up display ahead of me. It's a bit difficult to fully show you just how well that works because you have to be sat here. And if you put a camera here, then I'm not here. And that would be a real shame, let's be honest. I'll talk more about that and how it works out on the road. The other part of the digital suite is the central touchscreen. And in here, there is a huge amount of technology to talk about. First of all, let's go in and see what we've got. So it's laid out like a smartphone, like a device, a tablet. So everything is extraordinarily easy to find. It's just pinch and swipe to get through these various windows. And the home screen is lovely. You can customize that to see exactly which information you want there. At the moment, I've got it set up to be what I'm listening to in music. The navigation, it has native navigation in here. And just a couple of the quick things you may want to get to, like speed warning, head-up display functions, that kind of thing. Very customizable. And then you can go into this window where all the tiles are. And in this area, we can find all of the technology that this car has. And there is a lot. So here's the window where you can look at exactly how much battery charge you have. You can see you can set a departure time so that you can go and get the car to fire up and start cooling or warming the interior with this function here, the pre-cool / preheating. You can set the temperature that you want, the time that's going to come on, and it uses that big battery underneath to get the car comfortable for you. Then we have the themes. You can set the interior color and style of this vehicle with lots of different color tones for the interior lighting. You can just see this strip along here, which is part of the ambient lighting that at night subtly bathes the interior with different colored light. So this is where you choose what theme you want that to look like. Loads of different choices there. Go into the car menu, and this is where there's quite a lot going on. So first thing I can switch on is optional for this car is electric sport sound. That generates an artificial sound inside the car and also outside if you want it to be anything other than completely silent. And it sounds strange, but kind of compelling, which we'll hear on the road. It's also got a automatically deployable rear spoiler. If you want to show off and look a little bit more masculine on the road, you can select that to be deployed all the time. You can go into the various chassis settings because it has adaptive dampers on this car, and you can select the drive mode through here if you don't want to use the drive mode selector on the steering wheel. You can also find all the driver assistance functions in here, of which there are a lot. I'm not going to go into each one of those, but you can just see how extensive that menu is. And you can see all your trip information. You can see how efficiently you're using the battery power and the range that you've got and how it's all being used. This is also a section where you can go in and adjust all the ambient lighting, all the comfort features of the car. There are so many settings, there are so many different ways to customize the feel of the Macan for your own preferences. I could spend an entire video just going through those, but I won't. This Porsche is connected to the internet by itself. It effectively is a really big four-wheel drive SIM card, so you have a permanent connection to the internet. Which means you can access things like your own applications. Now, because this is a press car and clearly Porsche does not trust journalists, a lot of those features have been turned off. So I can't go in and just download every new application I want to play with, because that's going to get messy at some point. So if this was your car, you would have a lot more options in how to customize and set up the various web connected options and services. This one has the optional Bose sound system, which sounds utterly fabulous, and there are a lot of settings in there for $2,000 extra. I know it's a lot of money for a sound system, but trust me, it sounds wonderful. And then finally, we have the Sport Chrono package. The thing I really like about this is if you head to your favorite track, wherever that may be, you can either download the track to have in here and it'll already know how the track goes, or you can create a new one. So you can either press start, do a lap of your track, it logs it all, and then you can start doing laps and logging your times and getting better and better. I wonder if anyone will actually do that in the Macan, in the electric Macan. I'd like to know. If you're the sort of person that will take your electric vehicle to the track, let me know in the comments below, because I am not that person, but you may well be. Finally, this car has another option, which is the passenger display, another screen, third or even fourth if you consider the HUD a screen itself, which allows the passenger to have their own dedicated 10.9 inch screen ahead of them. And what that does is it effectively duplicates this central screen here, so that the driver can have this for their purposes, and then the passenger can have theirs all to themselves, so they can do whatever they like with it. They've got pretty much all the functions that they have in this one here, but for themselves, which is a way of making your passenger feel very, very spoiled, if you think they deserve it, for another couple of grand. Porsche does not do optional safety as a general rule, and not only are all the most important features included as standard, the active driver assistance systems work very well in practice, without being too intrusive or nagging. In the second row, there is a combination of excellent materials and that good quality that continues over from the front row, and also some space in certain areas and not so much in others. So first of all, the quality and the fit and finish is definitely not compromised because we're in the second row of seating. The same lovely quality material, leather, even the back of the front seats is upholstered beautifully. It's just more of the same excellent quality, very nice. In terms of space, so it's really spacious in places like toe room. I can get my feet right underneath that front seat. Pretty good under thigh support, good headroom as well, despite that coupe roofline on the outside, but it's narrow. So if you put 3 people across here, it is a 3-seat second row, but if you try to put 3 adults in here, it's going to get very squeezy indeed. Other things like storage, very small door pockets. There's nowhere for my phone to go. That's going to have to rattle around unless I pop it in the cup holders in the central armrest there. It's nice, sturdy and comfortable, and also beautifully upholstered. And the view out is very good as well. There's privacy glass tinting on these rear windows, and so is the panoramic roof. So it's quite dark back here, but the visibility is very good. Also features, you get a pair of USB-C charging sockets down here, and because I've got the optional 4-zone climate control, it gets its own dual zone panel back here. Remember, if you had just the standard dual zone, it's going to get vents back here, but not its own climate panel. So pretty well spoken for in terms of quality, fit and finish and equipment, but it's just a little bit cozy in some of the spacious dimensions back here. Perhaps unsurprisingly for an electric car, accessing the boot is through a power tailgate, and once you get there you'll find 540 litres of space, which for a car of this size is about average, perhaps even a little bit below. You can boost the space with these 40-20-40 split rear seats, which you can fold remotely with these little triggers here, very nice. Beyond that, there's some tie down points, there's LED lighting, there's no 12-volt power supply in the boot, and the other thing there isn't is much space underneath the boot floor. The other thing you'll notice, there's no space saver spare, full size spare, or even, I've looked everywhere, I can't find an inflator kit anywhere at all, which means if you get flat tire on one of those lovely 22-inch tires, you're gonna have to call for help whether you like it or not. There's another small storage area under the bonnet, but by the time you've filled it up with charge cables and other bits and pieces, there's not a lot of leftover space. It might have a battery where the exhaust used to go, but this car looks and even smells like a Porsche, and happily, it drives like one too. Now, I reckon I could tell you I was in a Porsche blindfold in this thing. It just does all the right things. I've already mentioned it even smells a bit like a Porsche, but as soon as you get out on the road, everything just comes together. The driving position, the steering feel, even at low speed, everything just feels just right. It's got poise, it's got nice positioning on the road. You don't have to drive this thing fast to appreciate that it's been well put together. That steering wheel just sits really comfortably in the hand. It's ergonomically really nicely made and designed. And just cruising along on open roads like this, it's very relaxing. Some steering in electric cars is really strangely calibrated, so it feels like it's got a lot of weight at the dead ahead position and then not a lot when you steer away from straight ahead. This is the opposite. It's actually quite nice and a light dead ahead. It doesn't feel like you're having to sort of work to keep it in a straight line, but then when you turn away from dead ahead, it instantly loads up in a really natural way, and that really is one of the marks of a Porsche. Another honourable mention has to go to the brake pedal. Now, a lot of EVs try to make the battery last as long as possible through regenerative braking, and that means often a very squashy and strange feeling brake pedal. But I'm so pleased that one of the best things about any Porsche is that really firm, progressive and confidence-inspiring brake pedal. And although this is certainly not a 911 brake pedal in this, it does feel like a lovely Porsche brake. It's not got that strange squashy feeling. It's very little travel, and it sort of loads up nicely and becomes quite firm very early on in its travel. And I really like that. It's something that often gets overlooked and people kind of forgive in electric vehicles, but you just don't have to in this one. And now we're out on the road, I can finally focus on one of my favourite features. I know it's $4,000, but that augmented reality head-up display is just fantastic. Porsche isn't the only company to be doing this, but this is my favourite interpretation of it. So it's very difficult to capture on camera because your camera has to kind of be here for you to see it and appreciate it properly. But basically what it does is it projects images onto the inside of the windscreen over the real image of what you're seeing outside the car. For example, if I'm veering out of lane, instead of vibrating the steering wheel or making an alert sound at me, which a lot of cars do, and often you end up looking around to try and work out what the sound meant, the Porsche augmented reality head-up display projects the image of a red line over the white line of the road to suggest that's where I'm heading towards, and that I probably shouldn't be doing that, I probably don't want to be doing that. And it works so well. As soon as you see that red line flash up over the white line on the road, you know exactly what it's trying to tell you. It's very intuitive, very natural. It also does other clever stuff, like if it thinks you're too close to the car ahead, it will put a little warning triangle over that car, but it moves with the vehicle. So again, there's no questioning what it's trying to tell you you're doing. It's just such a clever system. And finally, if you use the native navigation system, it will project arrows suggesting where you should be going at the next junction, for example, but they're animated and they move with the scenery and the road traffic as you approach each junction. It is absolutely surreal and weirdly effective and accurate. How does it know where my eyes are? How does it know what I'm looking at? And how does it get it so right? It's such a clever trick that's not just a gimmick. It actually works really nicely in the real world. The only thing with it is it's just a little bit slow. It delivers those instructions kind of as I'm going through them, rather than giving me a little bit of warning ahead of them. Other than that though, it's a great system. So officially this car does 0 to 100 in 5.2 seconds, which is quite rapid, but it feels so much quicker in the real world, because 0 to 100 is actually not where this car is at its fastest. It's 60 to 100, where you're already rolling, and that instant acceleration is just frankly hilarious. I can't stop doing it. It's so linear and instant, and the torque comes in really wonderfully. The powertrain on this has been so well sorted. Again, like everything in this car, it's not been done as a gimmick, it's not been done as a crowd pleaser or a bit of a party piece. It's there for the driver, and it's something you appreciate every time you use this car. Whether that's to try and get yourself out of trouble, or if you're in a hurry, or if you're just out to enjoy this car, the performance is really fantastic. But there is one important point to mention here, and that is if you give Porsche another $2,800, they will fit this car with adaptive air suspension. And I really admire Porsche for giving me a car that hasn't been spec'd with that, because it means they're clearly quite proud of the way it rolls on steel springs. That's what this car has. And that changes everything, because most vehicles of this weight, particularly EVs on steel springs, definitely don't do as well as this car does on lumps and bumps. So if it really doesn't sit comfortably with you, no pun intended, then spend an extra nearly $3 grand and you'll get adaptive air suspension. Each version comes with adaptive dampers as standard. See how it just starts to lose its cool a little bit, I think is the kindest way. It doesn't at any point start to become dodgy, like you can still maintain a good line through the corner, but it's not as cool, it's not as relaxed. Again, it might be down to the very low profile tyres, but there's a lot of road noise coming through into the cabin, and I can hear it all is absolutely from the tyres. It's not wind noise or anything like that. It is a lot of roar from coarse chip roads.
Obviously you get more noise in the cabin when you're hitting surfaces which are really rough and coarse, but for something wearing this badge, it's a little bit too noisy for my liking in the cabin at speed on country roads. I'll be totally honest, when I heard that the Macan was going to go all electric, my heart did actually sink a little bit. I thought, how can it possibly be as well rounded as the Macan, a true driver's car, regardless of whether it's an SUV or not? But now I've had my first experience of this model and just how good that Porsche PPE platform can be. It's just great. It is a proper driver's car, and this is only the Macan 4. We've still got a turbo to come and all the other performance ones that hopefully will eventuate. It just holds on with such unbelievable grip, but it all comes back through the steering like a proper Porsche should. I've got feel through these lovely firm seats. I've got everything I expect from a Porsche. And frankly, I wasn't expecting the full deal. But really, one of my favorite qualities of the new Macan is that it doesn't feel like lots of other electric vehicles that have been rebadged and dressed up in a different body because they're all rolling on the same platform, which a lot of cars with electric powertrains do these days. It just makes good economical sense. But this car, because it has a platform that's almost unique, I mean, there's really only one other car that rolls on it at the moment, the Audi A6 and Q6, it doesn't feel like many other vehicles. And at a time when electric vehicles are feeling very similar and homogenized, that's a very good point of difference to have.
There's been so much fuss made over the Macan's transition into an electric-only model that an arguably more important and significant point gets frequently overlooked. In the previous generation, the Macan cost as little as 94 grand, and although the new one is still the cheapest way of joining the coveted Porsche club, and there's a lot included for the cash, with a starting price of about 130 grand, it doesn't seem like the bargain it once was. But as an electric vehicle, the second generation Macan works extremely well. It's got a long range, it charges really fast, and most importantly, it feels like a Porsche in all the right ways. If you've got the budget to spend on a car like this, and you're willing to spend about 34 grand more than the previous equivalent version, there are few EVs that feel quite as special for the same cash. That is the new Porsche Macan. It is available only as an electric vehicle, and it's significantly more expensive than the previous version. How does that make you feel? Let us know in the comments below. If you've liked this video, hit like and subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time a new review goes live, and thanks for watching Car Sales.